Good afternoon. The Senate Transportation Committee will come to order. Clerk, would you open the rolls?
Did I not?
Please.
My apologies. Thank you.
Ayes 13, no zero. Excuse me. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Just a few preliminary matters. Senate Bill 875 of Senator McDougal's, they've asked it to be re-referred to, I believe, Judiciary. And could I have a motion to re-refer that? Have a motion, have a second. All in favor, or is that a recorded vote?
It is, yes, sir.
Let's open the roll.
Ayes 12, noes 1.
Ayes 12, noes 1. This bill is off to Judiciary. Senate Bill 977, Senator Mason. We need a motion to strike. So moved. We have a motion and a second to strike. Would you open the roll, please?
Ayes 13, no 0.
Ayes 13, no 0, and that bill is off to oblivion. Senate Bill 1165. We have a motion to take that by for the week. Without objection, Senate Bill 1165 is by for the week. We're going to start out here. I do have to go out of order a little bit here, but we're going to start off with Senator Reeves. Are you with us? There you are, sir. Senate Bill 1196. Do you have any amendments or?
No, sir, I don't. I'm going to have a actual motion committee, but Mr. Chairman, this has to do with the farm tag usage, and this is a full repeal of what had originally come through. And I put this in as a stopgap, but it seems like there's some headwind on a few bills that are coming through. I think Senator Hanger has one, and there's a couple coming from the House that hopefully by the end of this thing will work out the problems that we've all seen and heard from our farmers in our districts that have rural districts. But I do have a couple people that like to speak to this issue a little bit, but I know this was a stopgap, and if those bills come through, then there'll be no need for my bill. But I'd like to make the statement that if it's not fixed and it doesn't work right, I'll be bringing this repeal bill back to where we can finally get the farm tags fixed.
Are you talking about next week, bringing it back, or in another year?
Negative, next year.
Okay, so at this point in time, you want the bill heard, but then we'll just take it by for a week to see how it goes, or do you want to vote on it?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know the posture of Senator Hanger's bill at this point.
It's advanced.
It's
Mr.
gone.
Chairman, should we make a motion to strike the bill?
Senator Suderline.
Mr. Chairman, should we PBI or strike the bill? It sounds, if the patron doesn't want the bill to go forward, should we strike it? Is that what he'd like?
My understanding is it was dependent on some.
Mr. Chairman, I would leave it to the rest of the committee. I understand where Senator Suderline is, and I don't have any. If we could go another week, I'm happy to do that. I'm just trying to make sure that whatever vehicle we have in place identifies and fixes the problems that are continuing to be in these bills before we get to the end, and I've been made some promises. So if we would like to PBI the bill, I'm happy with that too, Mr. Chairman. It'd be up to the pleasure of the committee.
Okay. Do I have a motion to PBI?
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, can we hear his people?
Okay. Do you want to hear?
I do have a couple folks that would like to just testify to the bill and where we are in the process. I know we have the Beef Cattlemen's Association, some others.
All right. Please, sir, come forward. It's good to see you again. Sure. And you are in favor or in opposition to the bill?
I am in favor. We were up until this point. Let me preface what I'm going to say, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jim Riddell with the Virginia Cattlemen's Association, and we probably have as many farm use exemptions out there as any ag entity. Originally, when Mr. Orrick, Delegate Orrick, and Senator Reeves put these in, we were in favor. And what I want to say is Senator Hanger's bill and all the work with it with Farm Bureau and others and cattlemen and groups, we believe those bills will take care of the issues that are concerned to us. And so it's changed a lot in the bill. And the best thing, I guess, about it is it pushes it out to 2024. This was to take effect 2023, July 1. Now it'll take effect 2024. So if there are already problems that have to be worked out, they can be looked at in that period. And then if need to be repealed later, they could be repealed next year. And I think that's what Senator Reeves was speaking of as well.
All right. All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in favor or in opposition to this bill? Either one.
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor or opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There are no speakers on Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Reeves, anything else you want to?
No, sir. Thank you for hearing the bill.
Oh, okay. Do we have a motion on the bill? We have a motion to PBI. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion to PBI to second to PBI the bill. Clerk, would you open the roll?
Rule.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill is PBI'd. Good luck,
Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Reeves,
Chairman.
with straightening out the issue. Senator Locke, you're up next, followed by Senator Deeds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a substitute on Senate Bill 861.
We have a motion to accept the substitute. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Substitute is before us. Senator Locke, tell us about your bill and your substitute.
Okay. As amended, Senate Bill 861 authorizes the localities in Planning District 23 to establish a traffic control device violation monitoring system, imposing monetary liability on the operator of a motor vehicle for failure to comply with traffic control devices at any intersection deemed by the local governing body to be negatively impacted by traffic due to the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion Project, I-64 Express Lanes 4C project. The bill sunsets on July 1st, 2027, or upon certification by the Secretary of Transportation that the I-64 Express Lanes Project 4C is complete, whichever is earlier. The bill contains technical amendments that have been worked out with VDOT and DMV. That's what it does.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Any questions? Senator Cosgrove.
the substitute is not available online. Do we have a substitute available?
Do you have copies?
Nothing. Nope.
It is not available?
Nope.
Could you just explain one more time exactly what the substitute does, Senator Locke?
It allows localities in Planning District 23 to establish a traffic control device violation monitoring system that will impose a monetary liability on operators of motor vehicles for failure to comply with traffic control devices at any intersection deemed by the local governing body to be negatively impacted by traffic due to the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Expansion Project.
Okay.
Because what's been happening is people have been blocking intersections that's been problematic, particularly for people who who work at the VA, who work at Hampton University, who work in the Phoebus community, and people have been impacted seriously because of the expansion project at the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel.
And my understanding is this is not a speed camera. This is just intersection control.
Correct.
You know, red light blocking the box, if you will, and hopefully to put an end to that. Any questions from I understand the substitute is available online. Is there are there any questions from
Mr.
the
Chairman?
panel? Senator Suderline.
So the only thing, Mr. Chairman, my question for the patron is, the only thing that the camera is examining is if you're in the box. Is that correct? There's no speed component?
Lifeline.
All right. So I just want to know exactly what the camera can catch.
Hi, yeah, so the intent of this is for the cameras to be able to take photos so we can catch the people in the box. We also may use it for like if we have a no left turn sign, even if it's green. Right now, we can only enforce that if it's a red light. And it is not intended to catch anything else.
And this would be a no left turn with an actual sign that says no left turn.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Other questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman?
No, that's right, after you, please.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Cosgrove.
I'd ask Senator Locke or her lifeline. Is there any limit to the number of these devices in this bill? I know in PhotoRed, they're limited a certain number per locality.
So it's in the same statute, of course, as the red light cameras, and our intention is to only have the same number, so have the total number that we can have, and I'm from the city of Hampton, by the way, be the total number that we already could have of red lights,
All right,
if that makes sense.
thank you.
All right. Other questions from the committee before we go to the audience? Senator Cosgrove.
No.
Oh, Senator DeStaff.
Mr. Chairman, I had a quick question for the lifeline here. And I'm just reading line 15 of the bill, and it says it uses LiDAR-based speed detection and produces one or more photographs, microphotographs, video, and other recorded images. So even though it's collecting the speed, they're not going to be prosecuted for speed, correct?
That's correct. And as the bill explains, we have to go through the process of determining whether these intersections are impacted by congestion. So obviously, speed is generally not a factor when it comes to congestion. And we will not be prosecuting speed violations.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Other questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Senator
sorry.
Obenshain.
So will this issue a ticket if I am entering the intersection as the light is, or I've gotten too far when the light turns yellow and turns red as I am exiting the intersection? Is it going to issue me a ticket?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. I think that does it for the panel up here. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the bill?
Anyone on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There is one speaker on Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Please submit your testimony.
Yes. Vice Mayor, if you can unmute and begin your testimony now, please.
Good. Thank you. Good afternoon, senators and members of the committee. I am Jimmy Gray, Vice Mayor in the city of Hampton, and just available to speak in support of Senate Bill 861. And as Senator Locke has laid out, this bill provides for expanded traffic control monitoring in the city of Hampton to deal with the congestion problems that we have associated with the construction of the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel expansion. And as it's already been mentioned, you know, what we're experiencing here in two areas of our city with drivers who are exiting the interstate at points earlier than or ahead of the tunnel and cutting through the city, particularly in areas downtown and in the Phoebus area, both business communities in our city, and creating significant congestion problems in the evening hours. And that congestion you know, also creates, you know, some strange maneuvers that you can sometimes witness. They run red lights, block the intersection, and they discourage customers from visiting the local businesses during that time, which is having an impact on those businesses. City manager and mayor created a stakeholder committee made up of representatives from the business community, Hampton University, the Veterans Administration, and VDOT. And they all supported the use of this technology to address the problems that are occurring in these areas. And of course, without having this expanded use of the technology, we would have to try to rely on police officers to do it. But as you can imagine, if there's traffic congestion already available, then it makes it difficult for police officers to make traffic stops in the middle of a congested area, which creates additional congestion and frustration. So we're asking for your support to allow us to do this, to allow us to expand the use of these traffic control monitoring systems. And again, as was already mentioned, it's a temporary measure that I think runs through July 1st, 2026, or until the Secretary of Transportation declares that project complete. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the bill?
Anyone on Zoom who would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There appears to be no speakers in opposition to this bill on Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we're ready then for a motion. Do I have a motion on the bill?
Second.
One more question from Senator DeStef.
Mr. Chair, Senator Locke, if we can get your lifeline up there again. I understand the $50 penalty. I have no issues with that. How long do the folks have to pay the $50 penalty? And I'm thinking about the folks who are working at the VA hospital, the folks who are working over there in Phoebus.
So that's not set by the statute. Typically, what happens is once a police officer reviews it, then they get notice in the mail. I think the typical time period is 30 days to either pay or appeal. Generally, our courts work with people for payment plans and things like that, but I can't speak to the exact amount of time.
All right, Senator Newman.
Mr. Chairman, just to maybe, as you've described the bill, I think it's in okay, but the question is, if we read the bill and it becomes beyond your intent, I just wonder if you'd continue to work with us to make sure the language represents your intent. In other words, we don't have speed, we don't have all these other things, right? It's not, it is within the four corners of what you said.
Yeah, and it is time limited.
Yeah.
Okay.
The real reason I retired is I couldn't get to work.
Well, I know people are just bailing out of the interstate to avoid the backups and can create some problems. All right, we ready for a motion on the bill?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to report. Clerk, would you open the roll, please?
Senator, ayes 12, noes 2.
Ayes 12, no 2, noes 2. The bill reports.
Thank
you,
you.
Senator Locke. Senator Deeds, you're next. And we'll be followed after Senator Deeds. Senator McClellan has to get to a subcommittee. We'll take her next, and then I'll get to you. Thank you.
Okay, this is Senate Bill 1293. It's my understanding that there are two technical amendments that have come from the Office of the Attorney General. I'm not sure whether they're online or staff has them.
Staff, what do you think? Okay. Are they available?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on line 78, introduced after A, it strikes the and inserts notwithstanding section 46.2-830, comma B, and it does the same on line 83, introduced after B.
Okay. We have a motion on the amendments. I have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second to accept the amendments. All in favor say aye. Opposed?
Okay.
The amendments the bill as amended is before us. Senator Deeds.
Yes, sir. As I indicated, those amendments came from the Attorney General. In 2021, we passed the bill. It was House Bill 2262 to approve bike safety laws. We struck a provision on the floor of the Senate, you will recall, that would have allowed bicyclists to treat a stop sign as a yield sign, and I was part of striking that. Since that time, I've done everything I can to learn as much as I can about the states that allow these Idaho stops. So 1293 takes a different approach by allowing local governments by ordinance to basically allow two things to happen. First, localities can authorize bicyclists to turn or proceed through an intersection without stopping, provided that they slow to a reasonable speed and yield their right-of-way. Second, localities may by ordinance also permit bicyclists to proceed through a red light after stopping and determining that it is safe to proceed. Now, currently, 9 states in the District of Columbia allow cyclists to treat stop signs as yield signs, and 4 of those states have both of the provisions that I just described, plus the Idaho stop. This is the approach that I suggest in this bill is the approach that Colorado has taken. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reports that highway deaths are on the rise and that fatalities among bicyclists are increasing at a higher rate. We need to look for ways constantly to improve safety. And that's what this bill's all about.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Senator Dees, I don't know if you've seen Senator Favola's Senate Bill 847. Are they essentially similar?
I've not seen it, no.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Favola.
my bill is slightly different. This would be helpful, but it is not the same. I don't want to take the time to explain my bill at the moment, but it is slightly different. I do have a comment, though, for the patron. I mean, this is going to be jurisdiction by jurisdiction, right?
Right,
That's one of the elements that sort of gives me pause because bicyclists may not.
Sure. You know, what my main concern about the legislation before, about the Idaho stop, is a concern in rural areas about bicycles on rural roads. You know, I've stood around many a pot-bellied stove and a gas station and heard pulpwood truck drivers cuss bikes. And I've always been concerned about trying to relieve that tension. I was afraid that this bill, if it had been implemented statewide, would do the exact opposite, would create more tension. Well, I primarily heard in the negative from two communities about my action. And when I looked at the states that had done this, I found that Colorado, which also has a fairly large rural area, but they have some urban areas, had allowed localities to go by ordinance. And so I thought that might be a way to see if it works.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Favola.
I don't think there's a requirement in here that signage, that the locality put signage up, but I would think that a locality would adopt this by ordinance and signage would have to be a part of that.
Well, as Mr. Chairman, as you know, when a locality adopts an ordinance, they have to hold a public hearing. There has to be a certain amount of advertising, and I would think there'd be plenty of knowledge within the community about any ordinances that's adopted.
I just wanted to make that point.
No, that's a good point. Yes.
Trust me, people do this anyway without permission. So, any other questions from the committee? Senator Suderline.
Mr. Chairman, I think I have a different view than probably others on the committee about the general principle, but I find it more problematic to have the localities. I don't know about Colorado's structure, but so in the Roanoke Valley, for example, Roanoke City is completely circled by Roanoke County, and we've got sort of like a spoke on a wheel, and if you live within 50 miles of Roanoke, you're going to be in Roanoke at least semi-regularly for business or medical appointments, but you probably don't know about every ordinance that passes there. And so I worry about people driving. I mean, I don't like the general idea, but I think if we're going to do it, we ought to have a universal policy so that, you know, if I arrive in Charlottesville, which I might only be in once or twice a year, and I don't keep up with their ordinances, you know, I'm not looking at the traffic light to see if a bicycle's coming through because I have a green. I won't think to stop. I mean, I just worry about it.
Mr. Chair,
some rural person hitting someone.
Senator Deed.
I certainly accept the gentleman's opposition, but I would say that localities today have the ability to adopt all sorts of ordinances, and that many of us, when we go through those communities, we don't know what we may or may not know what their ordinances are, but the law assumes that we do know what the law is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you get stopped for going through a 35-mile-per-hour zone, and you say, "I didn't know it was a 35-mile-per-hour zone." Well, the cop's not going to care about that, and neither is the judge.
Yeah. Senator Deeds, I assume your goal here is safety, is to keep drivers of bicycles from being stationary and being targets, so that they can move and get out of the way more quickly, and it puts more of the onus on them if they are you know, behaving in ways that don't comply with common sense. Right. All right. Other questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
At the risk of irritating Senator Favola, the two bills deal with kind of the same thing. And
are they in conflict?
I don't. Are they synonymous?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Favola.
Senator Cosgrove. I don't believe they're in conflict, but essentially in the 30-second version of my bill, if a bicyclist comes to a stop at a red light, but there is a crosswalk on a intersecting street, if the crosswalk has a walk signal, then my bill would allow the bicyclist to proceed through the, to get a head start before the light turns green, because there's a walk sign on the parallel crosswalk. So it just allows it early, it's not exactly what his bill is, but it is close. We're cousins.
Let's, because of some knowledge I have about Senator Favola's bill and the situation, let's wait to hear that bill, and I think we can deal with that a little differently. And so at this point in time, if the panel has any more questions? If not, can we hear from the audience to, yes, Senator DeStefano.
Mr. Chairman, I had just one question in this, and then I'm going to make a statement on this. I'd like to know what the state police, what they think on this first, and then I'm going to make a statement on bicycles overall.
All right.
General Maxey.
Ron, how are you?
Mr. Chairman, Ron Maxey, Virginia State Police. State Police has no position on this bill, as stated in a bill that dealt with similar topics. The only concern would be that a bicycle is deemed to be a vehicle under the Code of Virginia, and this would be a vehicle that's allowed to disregard a stop sign that VDOT or a stoplight that VDOT has deemed to be appropriate for an intersection based on either the traffic volume or the site visibility, would allow them to disregard that after stopping, where other motor vehicles would not be able to.
Okay. Mr. Chairman.
Senator DeStefano.
Captain Maxey, thank you very much. Major Maxey, I don't even know what you are anymore.
Major.
Major Maxey, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, the concern I have, and Senator Favola and I have worked on this other bill together, is either a bicycle is a vehicle and treated that way, or a bicycle is not a vehicle and treated that way. And what we're getting ready to do, if we were to implement something like this, we're saying we're giving the localities the option of saying, yes, a bicycle is not a vehicle, where everywhere else in the code we treat a bicycle as a vehicle. And this is kind of what got us hemmed up a little bit on our bill, and it's a concern. And as an avid bicyclist, I've got to tell you, I want to be treated as a vehicle so I can ride on the road. I want to be able to follow the same laws of the road and have the same respect. That's why we've passed 20 bicycle bills in the last 10 years. And I appreciate us treating a bicycle as a vehicle. Now here we're going to say, well, we're going to give them an exception here at stop signs or stop lights, and I think we're just going the wrong way, and I think that there's going to be an issue with this. So I've got to just say this, and Craig, nothing against Senator Deeds. This is just a concern I have, and this is Barbara and I have, Senator Favola and I have really had a lot of heartfelt conversations on this, and I think that this is going down a path we don't want to go, because now we're saying a bicycle is not really to be treated as a vehicle in certain cases.
All
Every
right.
other case, we want to be treated as a vehicle.
Thank you, Senator DeStefano. Anyone else on the committee? And is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand
Could we
electronically.
have one primary spokesman, and then others can just get up and express their support unless they have something
I may be so
unique to say. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I'm Brantley Tyndall, Virginia Bicycling Federation. Just want to thank the committee for passing a similar bill 2 years ago, and that this is a compromise bill that we can really support. And the bill that was heard 2 years ago led to a 23% reduction in crashes for bicyclists at stop signs in model legislation from Delaware. So we would like to see that in Virginia as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And you also support?
Yes, Wyatt Gordon, Virginia Conservation Network, in support.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. All right. Anyone in the audience, anyone on Zoom who would like to?
There are no speakers on Zoom who would like to speak in favor, Mr. Chairman.
None?
No speakers in favor, Mr.
Okay. In the audience, anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the bill?
If anyone on Zoom would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
No one here for that. Is there
There
someone?
are no speakers electronically who would like to speak in opposition to this bill, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Senator Deeds, you want to close?
You've heard the bill and you've heard the points. This is about bike safety. This is an approach that has worked in Colorado. This is, as I said, this is a law in 9 states, and Colorado is the one that allows it by ordinance. And so I'd ask you.
Right, thank you so much. All right, ready for a motion?
Move to report. Second.
We have a motion to report and a second. Clerk, would you open the rolls?
Ayes 8, no 6. Senator McPike?
Thank you
Ayes
very
8,
much.
no 6. The bill reports. All right, Senator Ruff, and then we're going to take, then we'll take Senator McClellan first. You can take, okay. We'll take Senator Ruff, then Senator McClellan, then Senator Newman, if that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 951. This bill is before you to address the issue of too many drivers who skirt the responsible thing to do of buying auto insurance. For whatever reason, many years ago, the General Assembly created a $500 fee as an alternative to buying insurance. I have no idea what their thought process was at the time or what policy that serves. That driver has no protection, and additionally, you and I pay as part of our insurance policy for the risk we have of being involved in an accident with those with no insurance. This bill requires those using our roads to have insurance effective July 1st, 2024. This came at the request of the Logging Association. I believe that Ryan Jenkins would like to speak to the bill.
Did you say the Logging Association?
Yes.
Okay.
Loggers Association.
Well, first off, any questions of the patron before he brings up his witness? Okay, bring your witness.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members, and thank you, Senator Ruff, for bringing this. I'm Ron Jenkins. I'm with the Virginia Loggers Association, and I guess the best way I can describe the frustration of the members, both members and non-members in our industry, is this way. Usually, when I get a call, it's usually after a court day, and it's also after they have been proven, their log truck driver, their chip truck driver has proven either through dash cams or with a plethora of evidence that it was not the truck driver's fault. It was the uninsured motorist's fault. They spent a day in court, but prior to that, they've lost a truck that's out of production. It's going to have property damage and significant repairs. There could be an employee that has got to recover from the accident. And then they leave the court knowing that they were not at fault, but guess what? There's not a thing that they can do. So all of the expense falls back onto the log business owner. And of course, the frustration is that eventually their premiums will be increased and their loss of production will not be they cannot catch up on that. So we would recommend approval of Senate Bill 951. Hope you'll find favor to move it forward. And if not, this is an issue that really needs to be addressed by policymakers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Could we hear from the folks, I guess, is DMV here that could advise as to how many of these drivers there are? I think we need an update on that. Thank you.
Good morning, afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Linda Ford, Acting DMV Commissioner. We did a study in 2018, and actually, for fiscal year 2022, there were 5,140 total registrants that participated in the uninsured motorist, compared to 5.8 million total vehicles registered.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. Question, Senator Cosgrove.
Yes, Ms. Ford. So Mr. Chairman, the $500 fee for uninsured motorists, where does that money go?
It it does not provide insurance coverage or pay claims. It gets deposited into the uninsured motorist fund, which helps reduce the cost of uninsured motorist insurance coverage for everyone. That's the State Corporation Commission that distributes the money annually from the fund among the insurers that write policies in Virginia.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Suderline.
I thank Senator Ruff for bringing the bill. I'm not sure that this is one of the issues that my thinking has changed more than any other over the last decade. And thankfully I wasn't voting 10 years ago on this, but I used to think that it was a good thing that we provided the $500 fee option for folks that, the insurance was such an issue. I guess just as more times come beyond, it just becomes more and more apparent, though, that the people that get hurt by this is anyone that they hit. I feel for these loggers, but the loggers, these are successful business people. I don't want them getting hurt either or their business damaged. But you think about the less affluent family that gets hit by one of these folks, and they're really in a bad way. And we're really hurting and exposing Virginians on the road in such a way with this. And I really appreciate Senator Ruff bringing the bill. And when it's appropriate, I'm happy to make a motion that we report.
Okay, let's hear from anyone else on the committee.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Please go. Is there a position from the administration on this bill?
Apparently not.
No, there was not, sorry. Linda Ford, DMV, there was no position.
Okay. Senator Newman.
Ms. Ford.
One more time.
As you know, we've had bills like this in the past, and Rick Holcomb used to tell us that there were some things in the background when we had compulsory insurance that kind of required us to have an out, right? And I'm going to vote for this today, but maybe with your office, would you mind checking with the Attorney General's office just to make sure what that admonition that we got before was about?
Okay, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, this bill, if we the motion on this bill, if we were to move to pass it, would be that it would be referred to finance. So we would have a little time to work out some of those details. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Actually, there are fewer drivers than I thought who would be on this. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would point out that last year, Senator Hanger's bill that dealt with farm use plates was to attack the same problem. A lot of the people that are not even paying the $500, they're going to a store and buying a placard, or they were prior to this year, or in the process of changing. But we're not prosecuting anybody that's got a placard on their car or truck or vehicle that says it's farm use, whether they're farmers
there is a
or whether
workaround
they live
everything.
in Arlington.
All right. Anyone else in the audience to speak in favor of the bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There appears to be no speakers in favor of this bill on Zoom, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anyone in the audience care to speak in opposition to the bill?
If anyone on Zoom would like to speak in opposition, please raise your hand electronically. There appears to be no Zoom participants who would like to speak in opposition to this bill, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So the bill, unless there are any further questions, the bill is before us. What is the preference of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we report Senate Bill 951 and then re-refer it to the Committee on Finance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to report the bill and refer to the Committee on Finance. Clerk, would you open the roll, please? All right.
Ayes 12, no 0, abstentions 1 or 3.
All right. Ayes 12, abstentions no 0, and abstentions 3. Major policy change in the works here, Senator Ruff. But we'll see what the folks in finance have to say. Senator McClellan, you have a
Mine is a
bill before us?
transit-related bill. I have Senate Bill 1326. As you may recall, in 2020, when we passed the Transportation Omnibus Bill, one of the pieces included in that was creation of a Transit Ridership Incentive Program, or TRIP. The purpose of the program is to fill the void in transit funding for projects or concepts that don't fit neatly into either capital or operating buckets. And it is funded from 6% of the Commonwealth Mass Transit Fund. Over time, we have seen emerging needs that as transit ridership has been building back to pre-pandemic levels, full utilization of available TRIP funds hasn't occurred, but new demands for funding have become apparent, particularly to fund projects to put sidewalks or shelters along transit routes, but they don't qualify for TRIP funding right now, or to help to transition transit fleets to more renewable fuels. So what this bill would do is require or direct the Commonwealth Transportation Board to use up to 30% of available funds in the TRIP program to support local, regional, or state entities in improving the accessibility of transit bus passenger facilities and transitioning bus fleets and infrastructure to zero emissions. I do have a couple of line amendments that were requested by the Department of Rail and Public Transportation to make clear that TRIP funds apply statewide and not just in urban areas. So I'd ask Legislative Services to report those now.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, the amendments are available online, and the amendments are on lines 43 and 78 after system. It inserts the restrictions in subsection A shall not apply to funds used pursuant to this subsection, nor shall the funds used pursuant to this subsection be used to calculate the rolling average described in subsection C.
All right. We have a motion on the amendments?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The amendments are all opposed, no? The amendments are before us.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Cosgrove.
You weren't going to call me Senator Surville, were you?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, just a brief question. This is a lot of money. Is this going to have to end up going to finance?
Yes. It is not new money. It is a redirection about how some of the money can be used. But yes, it does need to go to finance. And
thank you.
All right. Other questions from the committee? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Oh, my goodness. All
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, I'm Lisa Guthrie with the Virginia Transit Association, and we want to thank Senator McClellan and Senator McPike for bringing this bill forward. The bill broadens application of existing TRIP funding to do basically three things. Number one, it expands basic transit infrastructure, such as shelters, seating, ADA accessibility, lighting, and other safety measures, and it is something that applies across Virginia. Number two, it enables transit agency assistants to conduct the necessary studies and analyses for a transition plan to low and no emission buses. And number three, focuses on workforce development. It offers training programs, or it could offer training programs for transit workforce to implement, operate, and maintain zero and low emission buses. And so overall, 1326 will make transit more accessible and efficient. So we thank you for your consideration.
Next up, if you have something unique to say, please say it. If not, just share your support.
City of Alexandria, Sarah Taylor, we support this bill. We appreciate the opportunity to use these funds, which we've already used for other programs to work on our fare free. Now we can use it to make our stops safer, more accessible, and work on our low-no transit opportunities in the city. So we appreciate your support.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Wyatt Gordon, Virginia Conservation Network, also in support.
Nick Arnold, Climate Cabinet Action. We thank the patron and we are in support.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, we have one speaker that wanted to speak in support of this bill.
Excuse me.
On Zoom.
Please.
Tanisha Griffin, if you could unmute and provide your testimony now.
Yes, thank you. Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We also support the bill. We are with New Virginia Majority. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, anyone in the audience wishes to speak in opposition to the bill?
If anyone on Zoom would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Okay.
There are no speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any closing remarks, Senator McClellan?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes, you
before
can.
she
Senator Suderline.
Closes or chooses to forego that. The funds that it's redirecting, where would their current landing spot be?
Well, it actually provides more projects that the current funding would be eligible for. So I think I misspoke when I said it was redirecting. It just says that up to 30% of the existing fund could be used for these additional purposes that are all related to transit. When the program was first started, it was designed to help fund transit projects, but particularly zero fare. They haven't been used to the extent we thought they would. So now we're saying, since there are already some available in the fund, let's add these additional projects. And I think a friend wants to come up and add something to that.
Further clarification, it is an application-based program. It's not formula-driven. So depending on the applications DRPT receives each year, this would broaden the possibilities of submitting applications for these other purposes in addition to regional connectivity and free or reduced fare.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr.
Chairman, what's report?
I will second that. I was going to make a motion, so.
Please, go
No,
ahead.
no.
And
Senator
refer.
Senator Sproul made a motion, and I'm going to second it.
And
Senator Sproul.
Refer to finance.
report and refer.
And we have a second?
Yes, we do.
All right. The motion is to report the bill and refer to finance. Would you open the roll, please?
Senator Faveau?
I had pressed it. I don't know why I didn't.
Ayes 10, noes 5.
Ayes 10, noes 5. The
Thank you,
bill
Mr. Chair.
reports. Senator Newman, we've got you up next. And you have, I believe, you wanted to take Senate Bill, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman.
1106 first.
We can. If you would allow me to take Senate Bill 862, it would be very quick in that I've talked to the Secretary and others, and everyone, I think, understands the concern. But I'd like to strike the bill, given an assurance that we can work things out.
All right. We have a motion to strike the bill? We have a motion, a second, to strike the bill. Would you open the roll, please? All in favor of striking the bill? Hit your green.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no green. Always a favorite up here on the dais, Senator Newman.
Thank you.
1106.
Mr. Chairman, I have a substitute, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what we changed in the bill. You may have heard about the TPOF bill before.
Should we adopt a substitute first?
Sure, you may.
Yeah, let's do that.
So move.
A motion and a second to approve the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The bill as substitute is before us. Senator Newman.
And if you get a chance, if you want to go online and take a look at it, the bill before did a lot of things, and there was some concern about the bill in that it kind of directed a certain amount of money, and that amount would be maybe even $100 million to go into the TPOF fund. This bill or substitute that you have before you just doesn't do that in the bill anymore. Basically, what this bill now says in regards to funding is whatever our Senate Finance Committee and whatever House Appropriations comes up with, they can put into the fund, just like we do with MEI and all the other items. So we have now, under this bill, complete control on any money that would go into the TPOF bill. So that is really elimination of all of line 65 through 69.
Mr. Chair, we don't have a copy of the.
It's online, I believe.
I'm not able to get it.
I can help you from the
Yeah.
original bill, too, if it helps.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the patron.
Senator Boyce-Coe.
Thank you. Having not read it, would you be able to tell me if this takes money away from the locality? So I'm the only member of the General Assembly on the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, and I really respect the smart scale and the autonomy of the rubric. Is this something that would affect that? Because I know in the earlier version it would have.
No, we would have to do that now. So in other words, the General Assembly would have to make a determination to put money into the fund, and it could come from transportation money, it could come from general fund money, it could come from a number of different locations. So the bill no longer directs that. Instead, it would be a decision by Senate Finance and the budget.
Mr. Chairman, follow-up question.
Senator Boyce-Coe.
So do I understand correctly that you're saying that there would be a possibility that now the General Assembly or the governor would have the ability to take funding away that is presently appropriated and distributed by the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority?
I don't know about that. Let me let the Secretary
Okay,
answer that. 'Cause
thank you.
I don't think we're getting into your local money. What the bill was directed to was statewide money, and I don't think it's your local money, but I'm going to let him give you that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. I'll just say that, there are funds that come from the state that come through
The transportation.
NVTA.
Yep.
Yes. So I think it's really important that we get this settled.
Yeah, let me describe the rest of the bill, and then I think.
All right, let's get the Secretary up, and then we'll take questions.
Let me finish the bill, if you don't mind. Okay. Mr. Chairman, also you'll notice that on what used to be line 111 through 114, we had some oversight that was in there that carried along in the bill from years and years back. All of that has been replaced back into the bill, so that has changed. So kind of what's left, and that is that there is the opportunity, and there is today, for Senate Finance and House Appropriations to put into the fund, the TPOF fund, some economic development fund money. There are major economic development items. You know of some in your area related to federal agencies and others that could be very, very helpful to get this done. Number two is that we do know that this is going to be quicker than MEI and quicker than Smart Scale for sure. The other item, Mr. Chairman, is that in the original bills under line 123 through 129, there is full reporting in this bill. So if you've heard about there not being the reporting, every single penny of that will be reported in the bill. If you wonder about what is now on line 76, the acts of the Assembly, that's basically just allowing for certain economic development programs to be involved in transportation. I would tell you that over the last 10 years or so, they've been involved in a lot of them, and so this basically just continues what is somewhat the current practice. Mr. Chairman, as it is now, the bill is a very few words. It basically says the General Assembly retains all funding control. We decide whether or not any money goes into this, and then we also get all the back-end control, which means that we get all of the ability to be informed about everything that was in the TPOF section before. So with that, there might be some opposition. I tried to work with everyone that I knew of that had opposition. There may be opposition, but I don't know where it is. So if Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the patron.
Yes, Senator Serval.
Thanks. So I've got the sub in front of me, and I appreciate what you're trying to accomplish, and I don't have a problem with what your ultimate objective here is, but on the enactment clause that you have on the bill.
Yes.
It repeals enactment 7 of chapter 726 from 2014. I just went and pulled that up to see what that was. And I guess that chapter was Stolley's bill, which was I think it was the Speaker's bill back in the day that put the current smart scale formula in place, I think.
The bill is, the enactment clause is just the economic development.
I'm getting at that. Yeah, that's what it was stuck on. But My recollection of the genesis of that bill back in 14 was we'd had some projects the CTB had approved, like we had that $250 million road to nowhere that Governor McDonnell was trying to do on 460, and
right.
there was a lot of projects the CTB was, big projects the CTB was approving in those days that were being approved really for political reasons and not for, they weren't, well, whatever. They're being approved for political reasons, just leave it at that. And that was why we put this system in place where we created this formula and the rankings and all that to try and be more objective and thoughtful about how we allocate our money. And so part of my concern is by taking away that enactment clause permanently, that we're going back in that direction permanently. And if the thought here is that perhaps we need to revisit this concept for a period of time, why wouldn't we put some kind of a time fuse on it and say that enactment clause is gone for 12 months and then after that we're back where we were? Because I'm not sure I want to open the floodgates to economic development projects for like the next however many decades, et cetera. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, we had pretty good discussions about that, and it's a cleanup section. It's been done a number of times in the past. In other words, you look at the big package and they get scored, and it was included in some of those, whether they should have been or not. So it was cleaning up to reflect current law. If we don't want to do it in this bill, I'm perfectly fine not to have it at all. I don't think you have to put a time frame on it. I think we can remove line 76. And the reason for that is that it really has no impact on the rest of the bill. The rest of the bill is the specific, the others are general. The specific will rule in regards to this. So if you want to have an amendment to move it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to strike line 76 out of the bill.
I'd second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to strike line 76 out of the substitute. Let's see, it's
a voice vote, all those.
Just a voice vote, okay. Striking things out. All right, got it. First and second to strike line 76. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, the line 76 is stricken. Mr. Secretary, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you very much for having me today. Great opportunity to speak about something I think is very important and beneficial to everybody in the Commonwealth. When I joined the transportation sort of arena 12 years ago, when SmartScale was just getting started as a kernel of an idea, and as I've watched it go through many years and iterations, we're now in round 5. Round 5 is about $1.7 billion, is what we're looking at for this round of SmartScale. It became perfectly obvious to those of us who are doing this on a regular basis that the process of SmartScale does not do a good job of looking forward and does not do a good job of sort of seeing the problems that will be occurring because of development that happens. And that's one of the things we need to work on, and we are working on. And so, for example, when we see a big project that might come to any one of your districts, and somebody comes in and says, I want to do this work, and they say, but we need some infrastructure help with money and so forth, because there's not enough there, and once we dump hundreds of people or thousands of people there, it's going to become a problem. And they say, how can you help us? And they say, well, we've got this SmartScale process, and we'll go through that, but we've got to do the environmental and the NEPA and this and the design and engineering. And then after all that's done, then we submit it into this process called SmartScale, which happens generally every couple of years. And then the funding is out in the last couple of years of that cycle. And so, you might reasonably be expected to get an answer in 7 or 8 years. And they say, well, that's really nice, and we love your state, but we're going to North Carolina. Thank you very much. And that's a huge problem. So we have that across the Commonwealth on all sorts of projects, big and small. And this was an attempt to, and a good attempt, I believe, to try to get at that so that the government, the state of Virginia, has the ability to move more quickly on projects that are obviously good, that bring huge benefits, but we have no way to expedite them getting done.
Yeah, would you be would you be taking recommendations, for instance, from VEDP?
Yes, sir.
Economic Development Partnership that says, hey, can you exercise that section of the code to help us win this, make this economic development project more attractive?
Without question.
Okay.
And to that end, I sit on the site investment committee as well, so I'm involved with them as they're looking at these opportunities and development opportunities, so they don't just bring it in the door. I'm involved in that with others.
Well, I think Senator Newman has vastly improved the bill in terms of, our ability to look favorably upon it. So,
And to be clear, it's no new money. Any money that would come through the budget, so y'all would have your cut at that. And any money that we might ask for would come out of a significant uplift that we're seeing in transportation right now.
And as Senator Newman said, the money committees could choose to use general funds to do that, to not interfere with any transit funds or anybody else's transportation needs. And if it's that important, then general funds could be applied to this. Is that correct?
They could apply any funds. Y'all can apply any funds you would like to, sir.
That's great. Thank you very much, Secretary Miller. Appreciate it. Senator Favola, you have a question for the Secretary?
I do. So I'm reading the substitute, lines 34 to 37. So I guess the guardrail here is the Secretary could identify funds, but would have to go back to the Commonwealth Transportation Board for allocation, or is it solely at the discretion of the Secretary?
The concept would be that the Secretary of Transportation and the Secretary of Commerce would make a recommendation to the governor, and the governor would have the ability to spend funds that you gave the governor to spend on this purpose, with reporting after the fact. That's the way that was anticipated to work. I will tell you, and I sort of hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The smart scale system that we use currently, and one of the reasons this enactment clause was a bit of an issue, smart scale, and particularly in rural areas, has a high piece of the scoring is on economic development. Not in areas that we live in. Areas that I live in, that you live in, Senator, are low economic development. But you go down to other places, it's 45% of the score can be economic development in the smart scale scoring. So does it bring us those jobs? So if you have a really high score on that, it could be more than 50% of the total score could be associated with that, and we have done that. Not when I've been secretary, but we've done that historically a number of times. And so we need to work through that. And I don't like, I'm a rule follower, ma'am. I don't violate the rules. I follow the rules. And I want to make sure that we do that going forward.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Favola.
I certainly understand the value of having a flexible pot of money when we're trying to attract businesses, and certainly transportation is a criteria that many businesses value. I get that, and having money that we can use for those specific projects. I would feel more comfortable if there were just a few more guardrails around this in terms of the discretion that the governor has. I mean, obviously, Secretary of Transportation and Secretary of Commerce and Trade. Okay, those are two cabinet-level secretaries. But a lot of things could qualify as economic development, and at the end of the day, we still just have one pot of money, and there will be a diversion from other programs. Why can't we have sort of an expedited sort of smart scale review very quickly, or using our current smart scale allocation and just having a mechanism for a quicker review or priority, or another criteria if the governor deems something as a high priority?
Well, I don't know exactly how we do that, Senator, but I will say this to you. You have delegated the authority and some guardrails to the CTB. The CTB set these percentages, right? And they run their system, and they make decisions based on their scoring that they've decided on as to what projects to pick. You've already delegated that. It's working pretty darn well, in my opinion, over many of administrations. And so this would be, it's just one more. it's something we desperately need, Senator. We just desperately need it. We are turning jobs away in this Commonwealth every day from folks that need our help.
Mr. Secretary, would you say that sometimes, trying to revert back to smart scale, we're talking an apple and an orange here. This is about economic development and the ability to get revenue and provide jobs to people and what have you. And even a quick review of smart scale, it just might be inappropriate because the goal of what you're trying to do here is economic development, not what's the best way of moving the largest numbers of folks.
Yeah, but that should not be in conflict. If we're looking for, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if we're looking for money for economic development, I would put it in an entirely different category.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I can help
Senator
Barbara. If the bill said maybe something like no grant or loan could be awarded until the governor has provided copies of our guidelines to the criteria to the chairman of the House Committee on Finance, Transportation, Senate Committee on Finance and Transportation, that is what one that's in the bill now. It was out before, and the one that you may have read before, it's in now, and we do have to provide information to the chairs.
It just may not involve, the smart scale might not be heavily involved in that rationale. Is that?
But no, that's right. But to the question, then notice guidelines and that thing must be provided in what is the old bill, line 111 to 114, and it was reinserted from my strickening. So, yeah.
And that would be up for review by the chairmen of the money committees to deem whether that's appropriate.
It would be, the information be provided about each one of them in the guidelines.
Very good. Senator Favola, you all right?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Still listening.
Well, that's why we have red and green buttons. So, at any rate.
Senator, one last thing to let you ponder as you're thinking about this. The smart scale, we've delegated, y'all have delegated, I should say, a lot of authority in the smart scale process to the CTP, including the ability to pick any project they want that has been submitted for whatever reason they want. They can do that. We don't do that. We do it because it makes a lot of sense if we do it. And they also design the scoring process. It's working really well, all right? It can be better. We're going to come back to you later and make some suggestions to you. But there's got to be a little bit of flexibility that allows us to move more quickly, and that's what I'm trying to get at.
All right, that's good. I think there's some good guardrails on it. We have questions, Senator Boysko.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So I phoned a friend from NVTA, and they let me know that they're comfortable. So
yes,
I had some questions because I hadn't seen the whole substitute, and whenever I see money from money changes on transportation, I get a little nervous. So
okay.
My understanding is that.
Thank you. Let's, if we can, thank you, Secretary Miller. Could we get to the audience to see if there's anyone else in support of the bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically. We have one speaker on Zoom, Mr. Chairman, if there's anyone in public in person.
You said you have one?
One speaker, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, could you bring them up?
Jason Stanford, as soon as your screen loads, please unmute and begin your testimony.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, my name is Jason Stanford. I'm president of the Northern Virginia Transportation Alliance, and I just wanted to share our strong support for this legislation. I know that it has been brought up about NVTA and a question of how we fund these types of projects. I remember back when we had all of the different transportation projects that we had promised as a part of the Amazon package up here in Northern Virginia. Once that was moved forward, we were all scrambling to try to figure out how we would actually pay for those projects. There was even things like CMAQ money that was taken from MBTA to pay for those projects. So I think it makes a lot of sense to have a dedicated source of revenue for these types of economic development projects that can be outside of this long-term smart scale system. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jason. All right. Those who speak in favor, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ethan Betterton with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. For all the reasons outlined by Secretary Miller and Mr. Stanford, we're very pleased to support this bill. Thank you.
Okay, and we have anybody in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to the bill?
If anyone on Zoom would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Mr.
Hunter?
Chairman, Hunter Jamerson for the Virginia League of Conservation Voters and the Southern Environmental Law Center. I would like to begin by thanking Senator Newman. He spent quick work with us this morning on this bill and significantly improved it, as the chair has noted, in terms of our concerns regarding the minimum statutory amount of money that must be invested. That's out of the bill, as Senator Newman noted. Also, as Senator Newman noted, in lines 51 through 54, the substitute restores the retroactive notifications on the guidelines and criteria under the grant program. Those are significant improvements, and we share the goal that high priority projects that present themselves as economic development opportunities should be pursued and pursued with haste. And we recognize the smart scale system is not designed to do that. Mr. Chairman, what we would ask of the committee is that you look at line 35 of the substitute, and we'd ask you to consider a line amendment that we've shared with Senator Newman. I don't know if he considered a friendly amendment or not. I'll certainly let him speak to that. But line 35, after the word necessary, to add the words by the MEI Project Approval Commission. And the function of that substitute or that line amendment would be that the governor may direct funds from the fund to the board for transportation projects determined to be necessary by the MEI Project Approval Commission to support major economic development initiatives or to enhance economic development opportunities of the Commonwealth's transportation programs when recommended by the Secretary of Transportation and Secretary of Commerce and Trade. And Mr. Chairman, just speaking briefly to that line amendment, Senator Favola raised a concern about wanting more guardrails around these major projects. I think that's a critical component here because the delegation that you have under current law under C1 of this section and under E of this section are for projects that are really small projects. I mean, $5 million to $30 million projects. In the governor's introduced budget, the proposal was a fund of $300 million. We're not talking about very small projects. I think the General Assembly would benefit from having more than notices to what the guidelines are going to be, more than a report back of how the money is spent. I think the General Assembly would benefit from having some say as to the particular projects that large amounts of money are being dedicated to. And while Smart Scale doesn't do it fast enough, I think the MEI does.
I think there may be a problem with that, but both money committees, would be functioning in that role of oversight. Many of whose members would be on MEI. But I think there was a specific issue around MEI that Senator Newman had that he felt that it might not work. Because I had a similar thought to you, Mr. Jamerson, that the MEI would be a good source of
recommendations
of a check on the project. Go ahead,
Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Hunter. Hunter worked very well with me. I think we came to a multi-page bill to a 1.5-page bill with his help, so I'm grateful for that. This one did not come to me until I just heard about it just a minute ago. I don't think we can do these at the speed of MEI. We certainly can't do them at the speed of Smart Scale, right, but we can't do it at the speed of MEI either. If you're sitting... The city of Suffolk's not here. I wish they were, because if you're sitting across from someone and you're negotiating whether they come here or there, and you have to make that determination here or there, even MEI, those of you that know about MEI, is not a quick process. And we come back down here with Senator Ruff and everyone else, and us in our Finance Committee subcommittee, we look over those. Jason Powell helps us understand them, and then we go forward with that item. It's an interesting suggestion. I appreciate it. I'd be glad to continue to work with Hunter on those ideas. We thought by reinserting the guidelines coming back to the chairs and others, it would help. But I would really struggle if we went at that speed.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Favola.
Would it be appropriate to just have the chair of the MEI rather than the whole having them go through an entire process. It'd be one outside view then, one person outside of the immediate circle of the governor who would have a
I will
check
tell-
on this.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I'd be glad, Mr. Chairman, if you guys are so kind to send this to finance, we can work on that. I mean, that's a reasonable item that maybe we can work with. I don't want to move, however, at the speed of MEI. I think that
I
would be an
understand
economic
that. I
development.
There will undoubtedly be members of the MEI who are on the Finance Committee and Appropriations Committee in the House. So, they will be, part of that.
Right.
But let's take a little more. I agree with Senator Newman, and your point is well taken, Mr. Jamerson, that about that being an alternative to doing that. But I don't know, what if the MEI said one thing and then the Money Committee said something different?
Mr.
I would
Chairman-
assume the money committees are going to prevail because they control the money.
Right. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to ensure that there is another voice at the table outside of the immediate circle of the administration and the legislature, just to provide a check. That's it. And I will take the senator at his word. Senator Newman said he's going to continue to work on this if we move the bill along. So I am happy, if you're ready, to make a motion.
I think we are ready for a motion on this
Then
bill.
I move that we report the bill and re-refer this bill to finance.
The motion is to report the bill and refer to finance. Clerk, would you open the roll?
Ayes 14, no 0, abstentions 1.
Ayes 14, no 0, no noes, and abstentions 1. Senator Newman, thank you. All right, Senator Evan, I believe you've been waiting
Thank you.
patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is SB 1085, and I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute, which is very different than the actual bill. It creates a work group to examine the issue and make recommendations. We know that loud cars have created a quality of life issue for many community members.
Hold on. Let's move the substitute. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Substitute's before us. Senator Evan.
This is dealing with loud vehicle noise, and in 2022, the General Assembly passed legislation intended to reduce vehicle noise, yet the issue remains across the Commonwealth a disruptive nuisance in many communities, particularly at night. So I've heard from stakeholders, including auto dealers and the state police, and there seems to be a belief that there is a potential solution to this problem, but as of yet, we've not been able to determine all the details of what that solution should be. That's why many of the bills addressing this issue on the other side of the Capitol have been unsuccessful this year in becoming law. So what I'm proposing is that the Department of Transportation convene a work group to study the issue of vehicle noise, and that it would include representatives of the state police, other relevant state agencies and stakeholders, including the automobile dealers, the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers, the Sheriff's Association, Association of Chiefs of Police, and the Association of Commonwealth's Attorneys. I did not include representatives of local government in there. If there's a desire to include them, you could, but it says representatives and stakeholders. It doesn't limit it to these people that are in the bill. So that's the bill as it now stands. And then the work group would have meetings and report their findings to the chairman of the Senate and House Transportation Committees by November 1st.
And who again was the convener of the work group?
The Department of Transportation.
Okay, VDOT. All right.
VDOT, yeah.
So the bill has changed fairly significantly. Is there anyone on the panel has a question?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Serval.
Thanks. And I appreciate the substitute versus the original bill. I would just say in terms of the work group, first thing I saw when I read this was, why isn't local government on there? And I don't think it needs to be explicitly added, but I hope if VDOT is listening out there, they will include local government, because I can tell you over the last 2 years, the people I've heard from the most about the statutory stuff is local government, because they get all these complaints. And I think perhaps the solution to the problem might lie in giving local governments authority to do things, as opposed to us trying to adopt some statewide solution on this problem, because I think it's more of a problem in denser localities than it is in more rural areas. So, but in any event, I hope Virginia Association of Counties or Municipal League or whoever participates in this, and that Dillon Rule Authority or whatever is part of on this issue is part of the discussion.
Well, if they're the obvious ones to participate, I'd welcome an amendment to just include VACO and VML if they're the best representatives.
I think that's a good idea. Why don't you make that motion,
So
Senator
moved.
Servo? So moved. Second. We're adding VML and VACO to the list of those on the work group. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's in there. Thank you,
Great.
Senator Servo. So, anything else, Senator Eben, before we go to the audience?
No.
Okay. Anyone in the audience here who would like to speak in favor of the bill, as it now is as the substitute, which requires a work group evaluation of the issue of muffler noise?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There are no speakers in favor of this bill, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to the bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee,
Yes.
Chrissy Noonan with Reed Smith on behalf of General Motors. And we certainly do appreciate the substitute offered by Senator Eben today. And of course, as always, the stakeholder work group is the will of the committee, and we'll be happy to participate if that's the way the committee goes. But we do still have concerns about a work group. And just as a threshold matter, General Motors cares about this issue because we manufacture vehicles that have the capacity to reach 85 decibels. And the bill would have made those vehicles illegal on Virginia roads. But there are a couple issues I just want to very briefly address to let you know why we would still have concerns. The first is that the General Assembly has addressed this issue in recent years. Section 46.2, 1049 already allows the police to stop someone with unusually loud exhaust. And just last year, this very committee voted to make that a primary offense, and it became law in July. So we have had 6 months to see how this change has impacted the issue. Just 6 months. And the second point is that going to a hard and fast metric, as this bill would have done, is expensive. The fiscal impact says it would have been over $200,000 just for state police to buy the equipment. That's not counting the cost to local law enforcement. And it also would make it harder to pull over the bad actors because you move away from the reasonableness standard that police have, which is already in the code and which you made a primary offense last year, and you move toward this rigid 85 decibels at 50 feet standard, which requires expensive equipment that's calibrated. The police already have the authority to enforce this. The Commonwealth's attorney already has the authority to prosecute the bad actors who are doing burnouts at all hours of the night. And I would submit to you that we should see how the changes that you acted on last year and over the last 6 months, how those impact this issue. Before we bring VDOT in a room and state police, let's see what the changes you did last year, the effect that that has, and whether that helps to tamp down this issue across the Commonwealth. And again, appreciate the senator substitute, but did want to address our concerns, and we appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right. Quick question I have is Major Maxey still in the room? Major Maxey, the question I have is, since the bill was written last year and police can stop and use that as a primary offense, have you, any of your officers, begun to exercise their authority in that area?
Mr. Chairman, Ron Maxey, State Police. Yes, sir. It's made a difference, as was just pointed out. It's only been 6 months, though, so to correct that, a limited ability to be able to take total control of the problem that's present.
Because I would assume is that as you work through the number of folks with high decibel mufflers, that you would eventually be limiting the number of them, and we would work our way down until hopefully, one day in our dreams, these noisy mufflers no longer exist. Is that?
Correct, yes, sir. And there is an issue, as was mentioned, depending on where you're at as far as how these are being prosecuted in court when the cases are brought to court. That's an issue for us. But again, it's only been 6 months since this has been out there, and we realize that problem really exasperated over the past probably 24 months. So I'd agree. It's being addressed. It's much more effective now having the ability to stop them roadside with a primary violation. It's just going to take a while.
Thank you. Any comment, Senator Eben?
Mr. Chairman,
on that?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Senator Rouse.
Senator Eben, I was wondering about I think the aftermarket amplifying devices obviously is a huge issue coming from local government myself just past couple months ago. We heard that a lot, especially late nights, hour. But how do you particularly enforce manufactured cars to come off the assembly line where now you can build your car to specs as you want it coming from the factory and stronger V8 engine, scat packs, things like that? It just has a natural, or I should say a manufactured strong engine. How do you separate the two?
I'm not sure, but that's why I would like a work group with experts and everyone at the table. We heard testimony against the old bill. This bill does not require special equipment. It's a work group. It doesn't require a rigid standard. It's just a work group. And we're inviting the people who had objections to come and have a seat at the table and see if there is some way we can solve this problem. We know there have been scores of complaints in my city of Alexandria, including since the new law took effect. There was news articles about this being a problem in Manassas Park and other places. I'm just trying to come up with a solution. If the group meets and says, everything is perfect, the enforcement mechanism is now all of a sudden working smoothly, and there's no problem, then there wouldn't be any need for any additional legislation. But if they come forward and say that dealing with cars that are manufactured more to certain standards, a way that equipment can be regulated that would work, then I'd love to hear it and bring that forward next year.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Eben, I am in support of a work group. I think it's obviously something we have to look at. It drives not only communities crazy, but local governments as well. And saying so, I'm supportive of that group. I would hope within that work group with all the stakeholders that they carve out an issue with working with or understanding the issue with manufacturers. I think the aftermarket parts that someone puts on their car is different from as opposed to buying it from the dealership. So I hope that would be one of the key things they look at. Thank you, sir.
And I think, Senator Rouse, that what we would, if we did the work group, by the time they're ready to report, we'll have another almost a year of data that would be, reportable in that. So, all right. If there are no further questions, we're ready for a motion on the bill.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I will move that we report the bill, and hopefully some interesting recommendations will come from this work group.
We need to go to finance also.
I need to amend my motion, so I move we report and refer to finance.
Okay, we have a motion to report and refer to finance. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Ayes 9, no 6. Bill
Thank you.
reports. Thank you. All right, I think we have two more members, and then I've got a few bills, and then we're done. Senator McPike, you want to go next?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Senate Bill 1035. This bill might look familiar. We actually had this bill before the committee with some revisions now on state of good repair. It's a follow-up on a JLARC recommendation from about a year and a half, 2 years ago, to ensure there's flexibility in a little bit more dynamic fashion to make sure that we can take care of our bridges that need additional support and repair across the Commonwealth, to include maintenance efforts. And so I would ask the commissioner to also step up and speak to it. I know he and his team put quite a bit, and I believe we have a substitute because I'm getting the eye from the clerk, from our attorney here. So let's have the substitute before us, Mr.
Do we have a
Chairman.
second on moving the substitute? Okay, we have a first and a second to move the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Substitute is before us. Senator McPike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commissioner?
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Stephen Britch, Commissioner of Highways for the Virginia Department of Transportation. It's a pleasure to be here before you today. Senator McPike is correct that you have seen this bill before in a various form, and that was last year. The Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Miller, had asked Senator McPike to give us 1 year to be able to review in total the state of good repair program, the highway maintenance and operations program, and to be able to look at our comprehensive review that we did in 2018 and 2019. The results of those findings were presented to the committee, both House and Senate, Mr. Chairman, back in, I believe, December 15th, right around that time period, through about a 9-page document documenting our results of that. In a nutshell, State of Good Repair was created in 2015 through the legislative action, and the department has made significant progress in addressing our structurally deficient bridges that we have throughout the Commonwealth over that 7-year period. So certainly it warranted a review in total. To give you an idea of how significant we have come in fiscal year 2018 to 2023, we started with 818 structures that were structurally deficient. Over that 5-year period, we've reduced those numbers down to 513, and more importantly, we have all but 91 structurally deficient bridges programmed with monies. So what I would say is the State of Good Repair program has been a success story overall, and this bill would allow us to revisit and give us the opportunity to fund the next set of bridges that are on the verge of being structurally deficient. And that would allow us to advance our cusp bridges to be funded through the State of Good Repair. And in doing so, the bill, as it's drafted today, would also give us the opportunity to remove the cap that any district can receive and the floor that any district can receive. And in doing so, that affords us the opportunity to be a needs-based budgeted formula to be able to place these monies where they're most needed. Mr. Chairman?
Very good. Questions from the committee? Okay. Is there any other testimony you want on this, Senator McPike?
Just if others.
Okay. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of the bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor to this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There are no speakers on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, Mr. Chairman.
To the bill in the audience?
If anyone on Zoom would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There are no speakers, Mr. Chairman.
All right, seems in good shape. We have a motion to report. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion to report and a second. All in favor, record your vote.
Senator Favola? Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill reports. Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to thank JLARC staff and, again, the VDOT from working through this over the last couple of years.
Very good.
And helping out. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McPike. Senator Favola.
Mr. Chairman, I asked the committee to draw its attention to Senate Bill 847, and there is a substitute.
We have a motion on the substitute. We have a first and a second on the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, the substitute is before us.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is a bill that came to me from a bicycle group in Arlington. And actually, Senator DeSteff had some similar constituents who were very interested in this. What this bill does is If a bicycle is on the road in its bicycle lane and there's a crosswalk at the intersection, there's a crosswalk heading in the same direction as the bicycle would be heading, which would, for argument's sake, let's say it's going north and south, and the crosswalk over here is going north and south. Sometimes the walk sign comes on early, a few minutes early, before the light would turn green over here. The bicyclist would want to continue and get a head start and proceed further.
Mr. Chairman, Senator,
Senators
we don't
Cosgrove.
have the substitute. Can you tickle the software or make it happen, please?
No, the substitute's really important because we went through lots of iterations on where it should be placed in the code, how we should articulate the exception. The bicycle community really feels that having this head start is a safety element that they don't believe would confuse cars, and of course, pedestrians would always have the right of way. But I will say that this bill has had a lot of attention.
Did you get it? Is it up, Senator Cosgrove?
Yes, sir.
Have you found that? Okay.
May I
All right.
speak to this just real briefly?
Yes, please.
Senator Favola worked closely with Senator DeSteff on this bill. For those of you that don't know, Senator DeSteff is a beast on a bike. He actually does the 250-mile Law Enforcement United ride. If he's comfortable with this, then I certainly am.
Mr. Chairman, I want to be completely upfront. Senator DeSteff would be comfortable if VDOT is comfortable, and I'm not sure VDOT is completely comfortable with this.
Well, let's hear from VDOT.
I am quoting Senator DeSteff.
There you go. Let's hear from VDOT on this. Joanne, you here? There you go.
Mr. Chair, Joanne Maxwell from VDOT. We actually have an official position of oppose on this legislation. And it's because of the potential for a variety of conflicts. The system has been designed to treat bicycles as vehicles. And now we're taking exceptions to some of those requirements, and we're allowing bicycles that are in the same situation as a vehicle to actually behave or operate in a different manner than a vehicle. We see the potential under this legislation for potential impacts or conflicts between pedestrians and bicycles in certain situations, between bicycles and other bicycles in certain situations or types of intersections, as well as the potential for conflicts between vehicles and bicycles. And for that reason, we oppose. We think the legislation presents some significant risks and safety issues.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from the committee of either the patron or Joanne Maxwell from VDOT?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if folks have come to speak in favor. I guess you heard the opposition. But I will say that if it is the will of the committee to PBI this bill, I believe VDOT, I'm not going to speak for VDOT, but I believe we might be able to continue to talk about this issue.
You looking for a letter?
A letter would be great, and
Just a letter asking for VDOT to work with Senator Favola or do you want a work group?
I think I don't need an official work group, but VDOT did say earlier that they would meet with some bicycle associations across the Commonwealth to address issues that are coming up about, as we just had one today, about how they interact with vehicles and what's safe for bicyclists, what's safe for vehicles. So,
okay, that seems reasonable.
Mr.
Do we
Chair,
have
I have a question.
Senator Boysko.
Yeah. Would you be able to tell us any data about people who are already doing this without the legislation? I mean, do we have
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure that we do. This is and I can't speak to other states. I believe that this type of movement or maneuvering or operation may be allowed in D.C., but we don't have any statistics. This bill is slightly different from the stop sign, treating a stop sign as a yield sign. What this bill would do is if a bicyclist approaches an intersection, a signalized intersection, and has a red light, if the pedestrian signal over here is telling the pedestrians they may walk, the bicyclist may go through the red light. And that's the concern we have. Not every situation where you necessarily have a pedestrian walking would the bicyclist be protected necessarily from other traffic, et cetera. So those are the concerns we have. So this is slightly different. In other words, they don't have to necessarily stop or assess the situation. If they have a walk signal over here, they would be permitted to proceed through a red light, an intersection where they have the red light, and to proceed on. So.
Okay. That's a concern. Yes, sir, very quickly. Your support of the bill?
Wyatt Gordon here speaking in favor of the bill. Just wanted to clarify, this is about allowing bicyclists to have the same safety considerations that pedestrians have when they get a few extra seconds to make themselves more visible to drivers in the intersection. So this would allow cyclists to do the same thing, to get a little bit out with those extra few seconds, and to avoid any crashes and accidents at the intersection. And also to the point, this is actually in the federal manual on uniform traffic control safety devices. This is the suggested policy from the federal government, so this isn't something that Virginia would be pioneering or experimenting with. It's pretty established.
Well, there seems to be some discomfort with it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Servo.
Speaking to the bill, for some reason, people that don't ride bikes seem to have discomfort with people on bikes. And that seems to be a common theme I hear every time we try and do bike policy around here. And it just seems to me if a cyclist is in danger when there's a walk sign, then why is there a pedestrian out there? I mean, you got a pedestrian completely unprotected walking across the street in traffic, but it's somehow dangerous for a bike. I mean, that makes zero sense to me. I mean, and I've ridden a bike across the United States. I've said this many times. I've been hit by cars 3 times. I know how cars and bikes and pedestrians work. To me, this is sort of like an intermediate step between the Idaho stop, the stop sign bill that we had a couple years ago that we actually passed out of this committee, I think, until it got messed with on the floor, I want to say.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm just not seeing what the danger or the risk is. If there be pedestrians walking around the street, what's the difference if there's a bicyclist right next to them? It seems like either everybody's dangerous or nobody is. I mean, I'm not clear what the problem is.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We do have somebody on Zoom. If they could, if we could hear them real quick.
Yes, Sarah Bagley, if you're speaking in support of this bill, please provide your testimony now.
Thank you. Thank you to the chair of the committee and to the committee members for letting me speak today. My name is Sarah Bagley. I'm a member of the Alexandria City Council. I'm here before you in support of this bill. Speaking to many of Senator Servo's points just now, this isn't a situation where bicyclists are essentially putting themselves into an unsafe situation or creating one by going contrary to signals. Rather, they are merely joining the flow of what would be pedestrians already crossing the street. And as a cyclist myself, I can appreciate how much that leading pedestrian interval, that 4 to 7 seconds that allows me to get in motion, to get visible, to be seen, really reduces the likelihood that I'm going to be in an accident. And so what this does is it keeps me stopped at the light with everyone else, but it allows me to get moving, to get visible, to join those pedestrians in the crosswalk. Furthermore, it supports our Vision Zero goals to reduce accidents, and also every step like this that we can take that makes it safer for bicyclists and pedestrians will encourage more people to make that choice. Again, that is good for our economy, our environment, our personal health, and so I would encourage you to please consider these options. Anything that will make it safer and more visible for bicyclists while not impacting the signal timing for drivers is a good thing for our streets. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That completes the
Senator Favola, anything else?
Well, I think the speakers actually eloquently outlined the pros for this bill. Unfortunately, I just don't see how we can move forward with such opposition from VDOT. We've tried very hard. I know it was mentioned that this was part of the federal manual.
The manual.
But that was not the interpretation VDOT had. So
Well, so there was the idea put forward about, VDOT continuing to work with you on this issue, so we would PBI and ask for a letter, but it's up to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report.
We have a motion to report. Okay. We have a motion to report and a second, and this would need to be referred to finance. So can you amend the motion to refer to finance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have a motion to report and refer to finance. Would you open the rolls?
Ayes 10, noes 5.
Ayes 10, noes 5. The bill reports.
Well, what a nice surprise. Thank you.
Well, there you go. There you go. I'm going to switch now, and Senator Favola is going to take the helm, and I have 4 bills to do. And, oh, you still have one? Well, let's go. Let's get you done.
Mine's really easy.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I have Senate Bill 865. I've been on the Transportation Committee for 22 years. I hate golf cart bills, but this is one of them. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we have a real inequity in the Commonwealth of Virginia when it comes to golf carts. Golf carts are treated the same way that a Tesla or a Ford Lightning or any other electric vehicle is on the road. They have to pay that $125 a year EV fee, even though they're a tenth of the weight of some of these other vehicles. An example being a Tesla Model 3 weighs 4,250 pounds. A Ford Lightning pickup, 6,000 pounds. Your typical golf cart is under 1,000 pounds. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for these folks who are driving mostly in their residential communities, or if they are on the road with a low-speed tag, they're not putting really anywhere on the road whatsoever. So what the bill would do, it would remove golf carts as one of the vehicles that would pay the EV
And the bill
fee.
has a definition of what qualifies as said golf cart. It's a slow-moving.
That's a good question. A low-speed vehicle that is registered under Chapter 6, 46.2-600.
Are any of these vehicles licensed?
Some are. They have a low-speed license plate. Basically, if they're going to go on the road, let's say that I'll use one of our local examples, Sandbridge Beach. There is an RV community there, and they have golf carts, and they drive it 1 block from the entrance of their facility to the ocean front, and they have a low-speed license plate that's on their car.
And so would there be any vehicle larger than what we consider a golf cart or one of those triple-seater golf carts? Is that all we're talking about here?
That's all I'm talking about, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chair, question for the patron.
Yes, Senator Boysko.
Thank you. Senator Cosgrove, last year we had a bill, SB 320, about mini trucks, which I believe might be a similar concept. I'm just asking if this is the same thing where they could go up to 55 miles per hour. Is that?
No, these are low-speed
These are
vehicles.
like really golf carts
Yes,
and
ma'am.
not intended to go on the highway.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Senator Suderline, you had a...
Mr. Chairman, I just think, but the reason we have all the other golf cart bills is because we do allow them on the highways, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
To a limited extent, yes.
Okay. All right.
Chairman.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Obviously, down in the city of Virginia Beach, we have not just the Sandbridge area, but also just the oceanfront area. My concern is these golf carts don't look like regular golf carts that are on the golf course. They actually look like four-wheelers, mini four-wheelers. They're jacked
Some
up.
of them do, yeah.
A few of them, and they are.
The north end golf carts, yeah.
So I'm just curious about obviously if they come out, they order these golf carts and they look like original golf carts, but then they go and they make them like 4x4s, and they're much heavier and more heavier dutier, or more heavy on the road, and they travel. You're right. They go throughout the neighborhoods, but in a compact oceanfront district where parking is always an issue, they're constantly on the road. So I'm curious about why not just reduce the fee instead of eliminating it?
Well, we can do whatever the committee, deems reasonable, but what is not reasonable is to have a golf cart paying the same thing as a Ford Lightning pickup truck.
Are these vehicles, Senator Rouse, are they over in excess of 1,000 pounds?
They would appear to be. I mean, some of them are three-seaters, four-seaters, but they're at least 5 feet off the ground. I mean, I'm seeing them get pretty big. I'm in favor to reduce that fee because I think you're right. I think your point hits home. I would submit they shouldn't be subject to the same fee as a Ford or electrical vehicle. But nonetheless, they are on the road, and quite often they're on the road more than those vehicles. So I would submit that to reduce that fee to, if you want to make a recommendation, I would support a substitute for it.
I think a $25 fee would be a reasonable fee. They're still paying something. I would want to offer testimony that I actually did go to one of the golf cart retailers on Virginia Beach Boulevard, and I went and see their carts. Okay, and most of the carts that are made up to look like a Rolls Royce, they're fiberglass. They're fancy looking, but they're not nearly as heavy as a regular vehicle.
Okay, so we would go with that. I think Major Maxey wanted to weigh in on this.
Mr. Chairman, Ron Maxey, Virginia State Police. Not to do any harm here, just for some clarification, these golf carts and the definitions are mixed up throughout the code. So I was going to say we might want some clarification here. If we're dealing with low-speed vehicles and we're wanting to address a golf cart, under 46.2.100 definition for a low-speed vehicle, it specifically says that a low-speed vehicle is not a golf cart. I'll yield to the DLS attorneys on that, but just to point out so we don't create more of an issue here.
So we're not really talking about golf carts, we're talking about low-speed electric vehicles.
Right. Mr. Chairman, if you would want me to carry this over till next week, so
let's do that,
I'll
Senator
work with you on
Cosgrove,
that.
and look at either a weight limit or a reduction in the fee as maybe one of a couple of options.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator.
I'm happy to carry it over next week, but I thought I saw a FIS on this because it affects things. Isn't there a deadline do we have to deal with?
There's no budget amendment required on the FIS.
Oh, okay. All right, didn't want to hurt you.
This, it has been requested by Finance, so would it,
Across everything.
would it, if this is going to go to Finance?
Mr. Chairman.
I think we had a discussion today where Senator Howell didn't feel like that we could hear a bill next week and still have it go
Right,
to
Mr.
Finance.
Chairman. I would suggest the senator go in the corner and try and work it out because I think there's a deadline to get everything to Finance by Monday. So if we push this, you might jeopardize your bill if you really want it.
That's if you could, Senator Cox, if you could work that out with VDOT, DMV, whatever.
Okay, I'll be over there.
Take it by temporarily.
Sure. Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Spruill.
Well, if this committee deems that we don't think it should go to Finance, do we have to send it if we think it's a $25, and if not, no calls to the state? Just because they asked for it, do we have to send it to Finance because just because they asked for it?
If we're going to reduce a fee, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Senator Favola, and I've got a few bills. Let's take up 901, Senator Favola.
Okay.
And I have an amendment.
Okay. Is the amendment posted? It's in progress. Can you read it to us?
I can explain, while it's going up, I can explain what the amendment does.
Okay, go ahead.
This bill involves handguns being left in unattended vehicles. And what the original bill called for, that the amendment corrects, is that the gun had to be locked within the car in some kind of a lockable container within the car, and the car had to be locked. And what this does is remove the first locking requirement, which is the locked within the car within a separate container, and just requires that the car be locked when unattended and out of the sight of the owner of the vehicle. And if I could, Madam Chair, just explain the problem here.
Let me ask that the amendment be adopted. Okay. Amendment has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Okay.
Amendment's adopted.
Thank you so much. We are having an epidemic of guns being stolen from cars. I have newspaper articles here. Gretna is having a problem. Southwest Virginia is having a problem. Virginia Beach, Portsmouth, Richmond is having a huge problem with this. We have gone from 3/4 of guns being stolen in burglaries of homes and 1/4 being stolen in other places to the guns are representing right now at least half, or the cars are representing half of the guns stolen, and they're from unattended vehicles. The history on this bill is that it came to us in the Senate in 1910 from the House, and it was a bill that required the gun to be locked in the car. It was amended by the governor to be secured in the car, which meant in the door slot or shoved down between the seat and the center console in 1910. It came back to the Senate secured, and at that point in time, it passed out of the Senate. And so that is sort of the history of how we got here, and that leaving guns secured in the car and not being required to be locked has led to a serious problem. These guns are being stolen. We have tapes of kids going up and down the street, yanking on car doors, and trying to find these guns to steal. And
okay, do you have any speakers, either pro or con? Did you line up people for this, Senator Marsden?
no, I just wanted I believe the state police are here, that they had some statistics that they could provide.
Okay, well, representative of the state police, please come forward. He's working out over there. Okay. Anybody in the audience, any other people in the audience in favor of this bill, come forward and briefly state your...
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Okay, the Major
Okay,
Mackey.
State Police. I'd ask speakers to keep their remarks to about 30 seconds. I think the issue's very clear here. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. We were working on this other bill. Just some quick stats as far as the increase in thefts from vehicles. For the past 5-year period, reported to Virginia State Police by all law enforcement in the state of Virginia, there's been an increase of 31.4% of stolen vehicles. Okay. Through October of 2022, there were 2,879 stolen vehicles or stolen firearms reported from vehicles.
Thank you. Next.
Carol from Moms and Demand Action Against Gun Violence. We support this bill. There are too many guns that are stolen, and obviously they're not registered to the owners, and they're involved. A lot of them turn up in the crime scenes of crimes of violence.
Thank you. The next speaker.
Good afternoon.
Good
My
afternoon.
name is Therese Addington. I live here in Richmond. I volunteer with Moms Demand Action, and I fully support this bill, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Haas? Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Lori Haas. We certainly support this bill. Law enforcement needs all the tools they can get to do the job that they're charged with doing, and that is keeping their communities safe. When firearms are left unattended in vehicles, they often can fall into the wrong hands. And we need to give, again, the amount of support and as much support as we can to our law enforcement officers. This is a good bill, and we support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to speak in favor? Just indicate that you're in favor.
Yes, Madam Chairman. There's one speaker, Jean Hanwich. Please unmute and provide your testimony now.
Hello, my name is Jean Hanowich, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters of Virginia, and we support this bill for all the reasons stated. Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience in opposition to this bill?
Those on Zoom who would like
about
to speak,
30 seconds will do. Go ahead.
Speak in opposition, please raise your hand electronically. Sorry.
good to be not in the Judiciary Committee. DJ Spiker, National Rifle Association, we certainly oppose this legislation. 3 years ago, we passed a lost and stolen requirement. That requirement has been used twice in 2.5 years. We're adding another civil penalty here that unfortunately is not going to be used by law enforcement. We're adding another code to the books that just won't do anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, committees of the committee members. I'm Pat Webb with Virginia Citizens Defense League. We strongly oppose this bill. It victimizes the victim. You're adding a civil penalty, and you're subjecting the car to towing. I suggest instead that the funds be spent on educating people on safe storage of firearms. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody on Zoom in opposition? You said there was just one speaker.
Yes, that completes the speakers, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Sproul.
Question to the patron.
Yes.
Now, I'm talking to my two colleagues here, three. Right now, I thought that if I have a gun, I keep the lock in the glove compartment lock and my car door locked. That's two. So you were saying now, I don't have to keep it locked in my glove compartment, just my car.
That's correct, Senator Sproul, because under current law, the way it is, you can have the car jammed between your seat and the center console and leave the car totally unlocked, and you've committed no violation. You do not have, the original bill that put us in this situation made it so that you didn't have to have a concealed weapons permit. And so anybody can have a gun in a car as long as it's secured, not rattling around, if you will.
Second question, Madam Chair.
Senator Sproul.
Then why you gonna make it hard for someone? People breaking cars are easy to break into now.
Well,
so wait a minute. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
The cars are real hard now. I was thought maybe you were trying to make it harder by saying not only that you have the car lock, but having another secure place like a glove compartment or something else. But now you're saying that's breaking into the car. That's an open box for everybody. I like the idea of having to make it hard. If you break into my car, then you have to break into my glove compartment as well, but not just the car.
And I understand your concern. My original intent was to make it a Class 1 misdemeanor, was to have both of those locks. But I recognize the reality of trying to get this through the House of Delegates. And I thought that if we just made this very simple for people, most of the guns are taken from vehicles where the door is unlocked. And that's what we're trying to
So this was a
solve here.
compromise with the hope of getting the bill passed. It's not perfect.
Madam Chair?
Senator Sproul.
Compromise. There are no such thing as a locked car door no more. These folks now, for somehow, their technology is much better than ours. Because you got a car lock, if they see a gun, they're going to get it.
Yeah, and certainly that is the case in some situations, but most of these guns, my understanding, are taken from unlocked vehicles that are unattended. The owner isn't there. They run into the store for 10 minutes, they come back, their gun is gone, and it's in the hands of somebody that we do not want a gun in the hands of. So this improves the situation, makes it safer. There's a gun stolen from a vehicle every 15 minutes in this country, 77,000 a year, and we're just trying to stop the flow of guns into the hands of these young people who should not have them.
Colleagues, the bill is before us. We need a motion. Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second? Clerk, please open the roll. Am I supposed to vote? No. Okay.
Ayes 7, no 7, abstentions 1.
Do I love you at all?
So the bill fails to report on that
Chair,
vote.
Madam Chair,
Senator Sproul.
I made a mistake. Can you someone I'm going to bring about?
Okay, is there a motion that this vote be reconsidered? Are we, well, we failed. Okay, so why don't we, Clerk, may we?
Madam Chair, I don't support the bill, but I support our process working. I don't know that I didn't hear the vote reported.
Okay.
And so you can strike
I'd like
the
a
board when a
motion.
person says they made a mistake.
I would like to ask the clerk, please strike the board, and we'll start again. Okay, colleagues, may I have another motion? Motion has been made and seconded. Will the clerk please open the roll? Bill reports.
Ayes 8, no 7.
Okay, bill reports 8-7.
Thank you. That's more like it. There we go.
Okay.
All right. Next bill I have is Senate Bill 1466, the Electric Vehicle Rural Infrastructure Program. And Madam Chair, if I might. Here's the problem. According to the Virginia Clean Cities, there are only 1,204 EV chargers across the state, and most are not publicly accessible or located in critical rural areas. The EV market is growing, and EV chargers need to be both publicly accessible and technology agnostic to serve that growing diversity. EV drivers are forced to avoid rural areas because of lack of charging availability, hurting tourism and already distressed economies. For the next few years, federal EV infrastructure funding only goes towards chargers located along federal highways corridors, leaving critical rural areas even further behind. There's a budget amendment in for $25 million for these grants that will pay up to 70% of the cost of construction. We've already seen data that spending and economy and travel is starting to trend toward places where there are EV chargers, and that is the bill. It has an accompanying budget amendment. It would need to go to finance, and I do have a witness.
Okay. First speaker come forward. Can you just give us a very brief, less than a minute remark?
Of course, Madam Chair, members of the committee, thanks for having us. Greg Habib from Gentry Lock here on behalf of CSG. You actually passed a version of this bill last year that was much broader. It just got hung up in financing. Since that bill passed, the federal infrastructure money has largely funded highway corridor and urban deployment. So this is simply a rural infrastructure bill. We know that rural Virginia has been left behind in many ways, but EVs are the next way rural Virginia is going to get left behind if we don't do something about it. So if you don't believe we need EV infrastructure in rural Virginia, vote against the bill. If you want a vehicle to try to get rural EV infrastructure, this is your bill to do it. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Habib. Then there's some speakers behind you still.
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill,
Wyatt
please
Gordon,
raise your hand
Virginia.
electronically.
Wyatt Gordon, Virginia Conservation Network, in favor.
Very good. Thank you.
Nick Arnold, Climate Cabinet Action, we are in favor.
Okay, thank you.
James Hutzer, Virginia Association of Counties, and we support the measure.
Very good. Is there anybody on Zoom? Nobody on Zoom. Okay, is there anybody in opposition to this bill? Nobody present, and there is nobody on Zoom in opposition.
Madam Chair,
Who just,
just a quick question.
oh, Senator McPike.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question to the patron. You'd stated that the funds would be eligible for federal highway fund designated roads only, or state funds? I believe that you said federal highway.
This would, the Department of Energy
You
here in
have a
Virginia.
friend behind you also want to jump in.
Department of Energy would hold the money.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Senator McPike, the federal money that's already come down is what he was talking about there. This would supplement that by going elsewhere.
Okay, so follow, Madam Chair.
Senator McPike.
Okay, so the NEVI funds coming are really primarily for the federal highway designated corridors. This is now designated to secondary state highways and other appurtenances, correct?
Correct. If you want folks to come visit our parks, come visit our trails, hunt, fish in rural Virginia, visit our tourist attractions, they want to be able to charge their cars, and it's going to improve the economy of rural Virginia.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Hold on, Mr. Habib, and then I've got another question. Go ahead, Mr. Habib.
Madam Chair, Senator McPike, it's not actually tied to roads. It's tied to distressed localities. So it's targeting the distressed localities that are off those highway corridors to go on any kind of road where the private developer came forward with a proposal that the Department of Energy agreed was worth the grant funds.
It will be driven by application, though.
Correct.
Madam Chair.
Senator Boysko, and then.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
And then
Senator.
Senator Pillion. Senator Boysko.
Madam Chair and Senator Marsden, I want to thank you for carrying this bill. It is so important. We have worked really hard to try to make sure that our rural areas have all the benefits that we have up here. This is a positive, friendly thing for everybody in the Commonwealth, and I'm grateful and look forward to supporting it.
Thank you.
Senator Pillion.
Madam Chair, Senator
Do we know how many this is going to provide? Fast charge, slow charge? Do we have any in the information on that yet?
Madam Chair, Senator Pillion, last year we debated whether or not that should be set forth in the legislation or not. The determination was made after consultation with a lot of members, Department of Energy and others, that it's better to leave it up to them to determine through the grant program what's best in each locality. We have numbers based on fast charge, level 2, however they're deployed. It will certainly be hundreds that will be spurred by this. And the point is not to build the whole market, is to hit that tipping point where card demand reaches a point where then the market will take over without any more government help.
Okay, colleagues, the bill's before us. I need a motion.
Second.
Second. Move to report and re-refer to finance. Was there a question? Does anybody want to speak to this motion?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to know what those numbers would look like. You know, how far does 25 million go to the fast charge or the slow charges if it were designated all for fast charge or all for slow charge? And then I can figure out in my mind if it's a match or however they do it.
Well, of course, this is going to finance Senator Suderline for them to determine this. But I think it's going to be based on what the developer says it's going to cost them to do a particular site, and it would be up to them to say that's a reasonable price or that's not a reasonable price. And I don't know that we can predict at this point in time just exactly how much bang we get for the buck. That will
Wouldn't the Department of Energy have to issue regulations?
Madam Chair, maybe
Senator Suderline.
the advocate, Mr. Habib, could speak on what one of these fast charge or one of these slow charge costs so we can figure.
Yeah, so Madam Chair and Senator Suderline, so we're talking about probably a low six-figure number per deployment, so a few $100,000. This doesn't pay for all of it. What this is 70% of the non-utility charges. So there's utility component because there's transmission to the infrastructure. Then there's 30% from the developer, and then there's 70% from the state. Last year's bill, we had something like 600 charges we believed it would deploy. The federal money, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's about 130 million statewide for the highway corridors, so you can get the ratio there. This bill has up to 25 million. You all could say, let's test it with 5 million, 10 million, 1 million, and sort of build it out. This just becomes the vehicle for you all then to work with the Department of Energy to deploy as needed.
The Department of Energy has to issue guidelines on this program. So there will be some sort of public review of those guidelines that might be helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, a motion has been made and seconded. It's before us. Will the clerk please open the roll? Senator Marsden.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Okay. The motion, of course, was to re-refer to finance, as I remember you saying. Okay. Senator Marsden, next
Thank
bill.
you very much. Next, I got two more, and then we're out of here. And this bill, which there is an amendment,
Okay.
is the
995?
This bill deals with allowing WMATA to use flashing red lights for their emergency staff to get to the scene of problems, very much as if we did with VDOT. And
Senate Bill 981. Okay. Let's move to Senate Bill 981. Go ahead, Senator Marsden.
Okay. The WMATA Office of Emergency Preparedness Response and Recovery Coordination Branch is a full-time, 24/7, 365, 20-person response team. These individuals work closely with WMATA's Metro Transit Police Department, as well as jurisdictional fire, EMS, and law enforcement agencies. The RRC specialists are former first responders familiar with emergency responses and possess emergency vehicle operator credentials. The specialists are required to receive extensive WMATA training, including responding to fires on the rail system and setting up a unified command during an emergency. This bill would provide authority to the RRC branch similar to other local and state emergency management offices. These vehicles are not in the same category as VDOT traffic incident management vehicles. They respond at the same time as police officers and other first responders. WMATA is supportive of the amendment that would require emergency vehicle operator training every 2 years, which is what the amended bill is all about. So that is the amendment that we have, is to add the same training that VDOT goes through.
Okay, so there's an amendment before us?
Yes.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt the amendment? Is there a second? All those in favor of adopting the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, your bill is amended.
And that is essentially it. And I have Greg Potts from, I believe is here, from WMATA.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Greg Potts from Metro. We do
Welcome.
support the bill, and we appreciate Senator Marsden bringing it forward. And again, these individuals have a lot of experience, a lot of training. They're typically former first responders, former firefighters, and so we'd ask you to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, Ed Rhodes with the Virginia Rescue Squad Association. After yesterday evening, Greg and I worked on it, got everything straight. There's peace in the valley between us, and we support the bill.
Thank you. Is there anybody on Zoom wishing to speak for this bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak to this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There are no speakers, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Suderline, did you have a question?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, well, let me take those in opposition. Anybody in opposition to this bill? Seeing none, is there anybody on Zoom in opposition? Okay. I don't believe this bill has to go to finance, or?
Not that I'm aware of.
That I'm aware of. Okay, Senator Suderline, a motion's in order.
I move that we report Senate Bill 981 to the floor of the Senate without going to finance or anywhere else.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. Clerk, please open the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
It's 15, no zero. Your bill reports.
Thank you, Senator. Last one.
Senator Marsden.
Yes, Senate Bill 995.
Okay.
This Senate Bill 995, there's no amendments or substitutes. It comes to us from the Supreme Court. This bill separates a first offense of driving while holding a handheld personal communication device into a separate subsection of 46.2.818.2. This change would allow general district court clerks to enter violations as first offenses in the general district court case management system if identified as first offenses on the charging documents. The ability to identify first offenses in the general district court case management system is a necessary first step before the Supreme Court may consider a proposal to make first offense violations of this section prepayable. So this is going to set up a situation where we'll have some more efficiency, that people can pay this ahead of time rather than going to court. This bill does not make any substantive changes to the law, and is a recommendation of the Committee on District Courts.
Madam Chair,
Thank you, Senator Sproul.
so is it the hand advice, the first offense, is that a crime right now? The first offense? You're saying for the first.
It is punishable with a fine.
For the first offense?
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions for the patron? Anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this bill?
Those on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this bill, please raise your hand electronically. There are no speakers, Madam Chairman.
Okay, anybody in opposition to this bill?
If anyone would like to speak in opposition to this bill, please raise your hand electronically.
Okay.
There are no speakers, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Colleagues, the bill's before us. Is there a second? Okay, will the clerk please open the roll? Now, Senator
Ayes 13, noes 2.
I don't have a note to send it to finance, so, okay. Okay, Senator Marsden, is that complete your
That
docket?
completes the docket. I believe the committee.
You got Cosgrove.
Senator Cosgrove has worked his magic.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I want to know, the one we just got through passing that's involving the money, how come this was not referred to finance?
Senator Sproul, finance did not ask for it is the simple answer, but I think this bill makes it easier to pay fines online, so there may actually be money coming in faster. So.
Senator Cosgrove, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After consultation with DMV and with state police, we believe that the language that's in the bill, low-speed vehicle that is registered under Chapter 6, under the federal definitions, a low-speed vehicle has to have four wheels, can go greater than 20 miles an hour, but not more than 25 miles an hour, and has a gross weight no greater than 2,500 pounds. So golf carts would fit in this, the low-speed vehicle fee for an electric vehicle. If we're bound and determined to have a fee, it should probably be a whole lot less than what it is for a full-blown electric vehicle.
I think $50 sounds right.
How about 25?
30.
Deal.
I'll stick, it's your bill, I'll stick with 25 as a suggestion to the committee. With that, are there any questions for Senator Cosgrove?
Move the report.
Move to, well, we need to move an amendment to say that there will be a $25 fee.
We move and refer to finance.
Okay. We, so the amendment is for $25. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. It is, do we have to, I think, I mean, do you want to vote your proxies and what have you? Let's have a recorded vote on that.
I don't think that's necessary, Mr. Chairman, but the posture we were in was Senator Cosgrove brought us a bill to not require a fee for these vehicles.
Correct.
So then the $25 or whatever fee is now a fee. It's less than the current law, but it's not what we wanted to vote for. That's why we voted that way.
Okay.
So we're happy to move along.
Okay. So the bill has been amended for a $25 fee for these vehicles. Is that your understanding now, Senator Cosgrove?
Perfectly clear, sir.
Okay, very good. We have a motion on that?
So move and refer to finance.
Move and report to finance is the motion. Open the roll.
The Republicans are voting for a money bill.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill reports. You're going to be a hero
Thank you for your
with
patience.
Recreational vehicle owners everywhere.
Yeah, the retirement community is great.
All right. I believe that concludes the business. I'm getting the nodded head. Committee will rise.